bench, but it wasn't a very deep bench. And then I turned to Marianne and I said, yeah, I said, because you're the understudy. And she looked at me. I mean, she hasn't even been on camera yet at all for this. And she looked at me with abject terror. Right. I mean, she could do it if she had to. And you're muted. And here we go.
Here we go.
Okay. Judith is muted and we are just about to go live.
I was offering to be bribed if someone really wanted to go on, but
No, no, there is no bribe for this. You
Okay.
are Joe Pitt. Okay, so everybody, this is what we're doing this time, is we are going to start directly with Act 2, Scene 6 at page 69. Steve, our other readers are, in addition to Sherry Friedman, who's playing Martin, coming in off the bench from Melissa Gruden, we have Steve Saturn reprising his role as Roy Cohn. Okay, and also we have, of whom we have been speaking, Judith Rosen continuing in her role of Joe Pitt. After we read the first scene, we're going to stop so that I can do some teaching about Roy Cohn in terms of some background that I think you will all find interesting before we continue on then with the rest of the show, because the scene dramatically shifts after that. So here we go. Act 2, Scene 6, page 69. Take it away.
It's a revolution in Washington, Joe. We have a new agenda and finally a new leader. They got back the Senate, but we have the courts. By the 90s, the Supreme Court will be block solid Republican appointees and the federal bench, Republican judges, just like landmines everywhere. Everywhere they turn. Affirmative action, take it to court. Boom, landmine. And we'll get our way on just about everything. Abortion, defense, Central America, family values, a live investment climate. We have the White House locked until the year 2000 and beyond. A permanent fix in the Oval Office? It's possible. By 92, we'll get the Senate back, and in 10 years, the South is going to give us the House. It's really the end of liberalism, the end of the New Deal socialism, the end of ipso facto secular humanism, the dawning of a genuinely American political personality, modeled on Ronald Wilson Reagan.
it sounds great, Mr. Heller.
Martin. And justice is the hub, especially since Ed Meese took over. He doesn't specialize in fine points of the law. He's a flatfoot, a cop. He reminds me of Teddy Roosevelt.
I can't wait to meet him.
Too bad, Joe. He's been dead for 60 years. Teddy Roosevelt, you said you wanted to, little joke. It reminds me of the story about the...
Shut the fuck up, Martin. So you see that? Mr. Heller here is one of the mighty Joseph in D.C. He sitteth on the right hand of the man who sitteth on the right hand of the man. And yet I can say, shut the fuck up, and he will take no offense. Loyalty. Martin?
This man, Joe, is a saint of the right.
Martin.
I know, Mr. Heller.
Oops.
Martin.
Steve, you
Yeah.
have a line?
Wait a minute, gang. I was muted.
Page
Sorry.
70, Martin.
Take
Page
it back,
70.
Martin, to 70. Top of page 70. Just start the page again, Roy. Smiling but nasty at the top of page 70.
Shut the fuck up, Martin. You see that? Mr. Heller here is one of the mighty Joseph in D.C. He sitteth on the right hand of the man who sitteth on the right hand of the man. And yet I can say, shut the fuck up, and he won't take offense. Loyalty. Martin?
This man, Joe.
No, it should be
is a
yes,
saint of
Roy.
the right.
The line
I'm
should
working
be
off
yes,
of a book
Roy.
that doesn't have it. Emily,
Yeah,
I'm working off of a book. It doesn't have that. Sorry. I'm doing this guy. And
Oh.
it doesn't have a yes, Roy.
Oh, that's interesting. Mine does.
Does it have rub my back?
Funny.
What's
no.
that? So what I
My-
have is Martin says, this man, Joe, is a saint of the right. And then Joe says, I know, Mr. Heller, and then Roy
Okay,
comes in and
All right,
says,
all right. So then Sherry, just hold on there because we're going to get back to you in the right spot. And I'm just going to
Okay.
read this line as Martin with you, Steve, because you got the rest of the lines. Okay, are you ready?
Martin,
yeah,
Yes, Roy?
rub my back.
Roy,
No, really, a sore spot. I get them all the time now. These, rub it for me, darling. Would you do that for me?
Martin rubs Roy's back. They both look at Joe. Now, Sherry, go.
No, I go.
Okay, go. Sorry.
So, Joe, how do you think a handful of Bolsheviks turned St. Petersburg into Leningrad in one afternoon? Comrades who do for each other. Marx and Engels, Lenin and Trotsky, Joseph Stalin and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Comrades, right, Martin?
Now we should be up to you, Sherry.
okay.
Now you should be up to this man, Joe.
She froze.
Okay. Sherry, you're frozen. Can we do anything about that? I'm just going to keep going.
What's
till Sherry,
that?
Sherry, I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
This man,
Judith
Joe,
froze a little while ago.
say that again. Sherry, you're
He's a
back.
saint of the right.
Yeah, there you go. Take it, Joe. Up. Judith,
Yeah,
you're up to I know, Mr. Heller, I know.
I didn't hear the line, so
Okay.
Mr. Heller,
And you see what I mean, Martin? He's special, right?
Don't embarrass him, Roy.
Gravity, decency, smarts. His strength is as the strength of 10 because his heart is pure. And he's a Roy boy, 100%.
We're on the move, Joe, on the move.
Heller,
We can't wait any longer for an answer.
Joe's a married man, Martin. Martin.
No, Roy, it's yours, I think. Joe's a married man.
I knew, Martin is aha.
Okay, I didn't hear it, Roy, sorry.
Okay.
Joe's a married man, Martin,
Aha.
with a wife. She doesn't care to go to DC, and so Joe cannot go and keeps us dangling. We've seen that kind of thing before, haven't we? These men and their wives.
Oh, yes, beware.
I really can't discuss this under.
Then don't discuss. Say yes, Joe.
Now,
Say yes, I will.
now, I'll hold my breath till you do. I'm turning blue, waiting. Now, goddamn.
Roy, calm down. It's not.
Oh, fuck it. Reed came today.
Boy, this is terrible.
You're telling me. A letter from the New York State Bar Association, Martin. They're going to try and disbar me.
Oh, my.
Why, Martin?
Revenge.
The whole establishment, their little rules, because I know no rules. Because I don't see the law as a dead and arbitrary collection of antiquated dictums, thou shalt not, because I know the law's a pliable, breathing, sweating organ, because
Because he borrowed $500,000 from one of his clients.
yeah, there's that.
And he forgot to return it.
Boy, you borrowed money from a client?
I'm deeply ashamed.
Well, you know how much I admire you. Well, I mean, I know you do have unorthodox ways, but I'm sure you only did what you thought at the time you needed to do. And I have faith that.
Not so damn, please. I'll deny it was alone. She's got no paperwork. She can't prove a fucking thing.
Roy, I really appreciate your telling me this, and I'll do whatever I can to help.
I'll tell you what you can do. I'm about to be tried, Joe, by a jury that is not a jury of my peers. The disbarment committee, genteel gentlemen, Brahmin lawyers, country club men. I offend them. To these men, I'm what, Martin? Some sort of filthy little Jewish troll.
Sherry?
Martin.
Oh yeah, she's freezing. Oh, well, I
Yeah.
wouldn't go, there you go. You're up to, oh, well. Sherry?
Oh, well, I wouldn't go so far as,
Oh, well, I would. Very fancy lawyers, these disbarment committee lawyers. Fancy lawyers with fancy corporate clients and complicated cases. Antitrust suits, deregulation, environmental control. Complex cases like these need Justice Department cooperation like flowers need the sun. Wouldn't you say that's an accurate assessment, Martin?
I'm not here, Roy. I'm not hearing any of this.
No, of course not. Listen, without the light of the sun, Joe, these cases and the fancy lawyers who represent them will wither and die. A well-placed friend, someone in the Justice Department, say, can turn off the sun, cast a deep shadow on my behalf, make them shiver in the cold. If they overstep, they would fear that.
Roy, I don't understand.
You do.
You're not asking me to,
Shh, careful.
even if I said yes to the job, it would be illegal to interfere with the hearings. It's unethical. No, I can't.
Unethical. Would you excuse us, Martin?
Excuse you?
Yeah, take a walk, Martin, for real. Unethical. You trying to embarrass me in front of my friend?
Well, it is unethical. I can't.
Boy, you are really something. What the fuck do you think this is? Sunday school?
No, but Roy, this is.
This is gastric juices churning. This is enzymes and acids. This is intestinal is what this is. Bowel movement and blood red meat. This stinks. This is politics, Joe. The game of being alive. And you think you're, what, above that? Above alive is what? Dead. In the clouds. You're on Earth, goddammit. Plant a foot. Stay a while. I'm sick. They smell I'm weak. They want blood this time. I must have eyes in justice. In justice, you will protect me.
Why can't Mr. Heller?
Grow up, Joe. The administration can't get involved.
I'd be part of the administration, the same as him.
No, not the same. Martin's Ed's man and Ed's Reagan's man, so Martin's Reagan's man. And you are mine. This letter, this will never be, understand me? I'm going to be a lawyer, Joe. I'm going to be a lawyer, Joe. I'm going to be a goddamn motherfucking legally licensed member of the bar lawyer. Just like my daddy was. Till my last bitter day on earth, Joseph. Until the day I die. Ah, Martin's back.
So are we agreed?
Joe.
I will think about it. I will.
Ah,
It's the fear of what comes after the doing that makes the doing hard to do.
amen.
But you can almost always live with the consequences.
Thank you, readers. Let's go back to gallery view. And everybody. All right, Roy Cohn. So you might remember that in the very beginning of the play, we learned that Joe is working for an appellate judge in the Bronx. Roy Cohn had a very interesting familial situation in that he was the only child of and now just think about the line of, I'm going to be a lawyer like my daddy was. He was the only child of a lawyer who became a judge in the Bronx. And the deal was that if his father married his mother, who was deemed to be so unattractive that no one would marry her at all, was that because she had a lot of money and because she had a lot of political connections, as did her family, is that if Roy's father married her, he would get to be a judge. And that's exactly what happened. It was a completely loveless marriage between the two of them, done for the purposes of a political assignation, really, truly. And the mother, whose name was Dora, and the father hardly ever even lived together and only went out together for appearances' sake. Roy was an only child, and the mother, Dora, would never voluntarily leave him alone, including even when he went to summer camp, renting a place to stay right near him so that she could keep an eye on him. He went to Columbia Law School and he graduated early from Columbia Law School. And before he was actually of age, he lied on his application to the New York bar, applied to get into the New York bar, got into the New York bar, and through his father's political connections, remember, now we're the judge, okay, he went to work as a US attorney in New York City. And as a US attorney in New York City, he set out to make his mark. And all he cared about was power and prosecutions. That was it. His sense of justice was not particularly finely tuned. Now, back to what was going on with the family for just a moment, in terms of their interest in money and wealth. There is a story about them having a Passover Seder. And this was actually told by a cousin who was present at the Passover Seder. And he says that during the Seder itself, that one of the women who was serving in the kitchen actually died. She had a heart attack and died during the Passover Seder. And Dora had gone back into the kitchen to find out why things were delayed, saw her literally dead under the table, came back in and said to the assemblage of people, such and such died in the kitchen. And I know we're in the middle of the Seder, but I mean, and I'm sure she didn't even know that she was really dead, okay, right? And said, should we continue with the Seder or should we call the police? And Roy said back, we should continue with the Seder. And they did. And this was told by a cousin who was at the event. So even if it's not true, even if it's apocryphal, the point is this is the way in which they were seen in their family and how literally their Jewish values were nothing like Rabbi Benioff described previously about caring for anybody else at all. Now, as Roy continued in his career and would stop at absolutely nothing, we need to remember that even as the prosecutor that he was when he got started, and this comes into play in the next part that we see, we need to remember that his case, the case that vaulted him to where he got to be, the one that really we all think of is Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. But before he got to that, he was making his mark by prosecuting anybody that he could find where he could say that they were either a communist, okay, and or that they were a homosexual, and that therefore they were at risk of trading state secrets, essentially. So he went after the two populations, Jews and gays, that he is both a member of. So in terms of internalized anti-Semitism and in terms of internalized homophobia, he had both of those to the nines. He then used sort of these credentials and the way in which he had built himself up into this prosecutor. He then used this to get himself a job with Joe McCarthy. And that's why when he gives the speech about these were powerful men, men who took care of each other. And if we think about Joe McCarthy and J. Edgar Hoover and those people, we can think about the extent to which they essentially used their own sexual practices, sexual identities, sexual anything to hide what they were doing from the rest of the world. So where things sort of fell apart, and this is supposedly the character that Joe Pitt is based on, is Roy was in love with a fellow by the name of G. David Shine, who becomes very important because G. David Shine was serving in the United States Army at the time of the McCarthy hearings, when McCarthy started going after the Army. And Roy Cohn had done everything to make it the G. David Shine. And when you look at the pictures of him, he looks almost like Judith does if Judith were a male actually playing Joe Pitt during that period of time. He's blonde, he looks like a Mormon, he's chiseled, he actually sort of, I'd almost say he looks like Hitler Youth. I mean, that's how straight he looks. But he and Roy were closet lovers. And Roy, even while he was serving on the committee, did everything that he possibly could to make sure, one sec, I'm having a slight moment there, thank you. To make sure that he didn't see active combat and to make sure that he was not in any way needing to, at any point in time, disclose his relationship with Roy Cohn. But then something happened. The great oxymoron of all times, Army intelligence, figured out what was going on and used it during the Army McCarthy hearings when there is that famous line of, "Have you no shame?" And was going to expose Roy and expose G. David Shine, and was just about to do that when Roy Cohn backed down. So after that, Roy Cohn went on to have this relationships with people in New York that vaulted him into being a power broker beyond any of our imaginations. And including in that was his relationship with Donald Trump. So you know how ex-president, yay, Trump said a couple of years ago, "Where's my Roy Cohn?" The reason for why he said that is because Roy taught Donald Trump how to cheat, how to lie, and most importantly, the lesson that he gave to Donald Trump was never, ever, ever, ever admit that you're wrong. Die before you will do that. Never, ever say that you're wrong and never, ever apologize. Now, Trump and Roy continued to have this very interesting relationship. And Trump had determined that what he was going to do when he was dead was to actually completely screw the IRS as much as he possibly could, because he never wanted to pay a dime in taxes.
You mean Roy?
I'm sorry, Roy wanted to completely screw the IRS because he never wanted to pay a dime in taxes. So what he did was he absolutely refused to pay taxes. And then he said that he would leave them everything in his apartment because he knew that they were going to come in and clean it out because he had such bad taxes. About 4 days before he died, he burned nearly everything in his apartment so that the IRS would not be able to get anything, except for one thing that when the IRS came in, they found. They found a set of diamond cufflinks that were given to Roy Cohn, and that when they opened up the box, there was an inscription in the box, and the inscription said, "To Roy, the best lawyer I've ever had, from your friend Donald." So the IRS, of course, took that box, right, seized it, and had it appraised and had it checked for its value. They were paste. They weren't real. Thus, Donald Trump, true to his style, and Roy Cohn, true to his style, it continued even after Roy's death in terms of this anti-government, screw everybody you can. In terms of the legalities that you see referenced here, and in terms of what's true and what isn't, what Tony Kushner said about this, for the most part, the acts attributed to the character Roy, such as his illegal conference with the judge in the trial of Ethel Rosenberg, are to be found in the historical record. But this Roy is a work of fiction. His words are my invention, and liberties have been taken. So I was quite taken by this, and I actually looked up some of Roy's words and some of the transcripts. So in the trial, and this is an important thing, because by the time we hear about that the bar is going to disbar him and the letter that he shows to Joe, he's talking about how he didn't have a trial of it. He was not going to be able to have a trial of his peers. And the reason for why he said that is because he actually beat these charges. And the two charges that there were about the $500,000 that he had taken from a client, the one who didn't have any proof. Remember that one? Okay. And that was absolutely true. Okay. She didn't have any proof. And because of that, he won in a trial in New York City when he was charged with theft of her property. And he acted as his own lawyer, fired the lawyer that he had halfway through his trial, gave a closing argument that was unbelievable, just unbelievable. And it sounds like you're listening to Donald Trump when he's talking about things like the deep state coming after just a hardworking guy, how what was the problem with this supposed victim? She had all of this money. She should have been more careful. I mean, just this whole conspiracy thing, and the jury found him not guilty. That's the first thing that happened. He also testified during that trial full of lies, okay, including the lie that she didn't have any paperwork, because in fact she did have paperwork, but he had taken it and had ripped it up, okay? So they prosecuted him again for perjury, right? Same prosecutor, same people, same lawyer. He fires the lawyer again the second time through the second trial. Now it's the perjury trial, okay? And he once again gives this absolutely incredible closing argument by himself, where he talks, this is Roy Cohn talking, where he talks about truth. And he actually says in a closing argument for a perjury trial to the jury, and he's still found not guilty. I mean, that's how good he was. He actually says during that closing argument, he says, "What is truth? What is truth? I ask you, all of you, haven't you ever told the smallest lie to the person you love the most in the world? Isn't there something that you said that you maybe knew wasn't exactly true, but it was more important for the greater world that we don't really adhere to prosecuting people and putting them in jail when they're just trying to do a good job. And the jury acquitted him. What really sent it over the edge, and the reason for why they disbarred him, and they did, and he was dead a month later, by the way. Okay, so all of that stuff starts to happen really quick with when he's getting sick and he dies and he has AIDS. But it's all within after a month when he's disbarred. So what he got disbarred for was not for anything that I've just talked about. It was because subsequent to when he gets the first letter saying they're going to disbar him, okay, and the peers, not the jury of his peers, he's got a client who is in the hospital, and he's got the daughter of the client with him. Okay, they go to see the guy in the hospital. Guy has lots and lots of money. I don't even remember off the top of my head right now the Jewish family's name, but it's a scion of the Jewish families. Goes to see the person. The person is truly, literally on his deathbed. He takes a document that is a new quote unquote will, and he shoves it, he gives it to the person for them to sign it, and they can't sign it because they're truly dying. So he picks up the person's hand and he gives it an X in the signature line over the person where the person's going to die. And then the person really does die, okay, very shortly thereafter. So the other family members, once this has happened, from the sister, remember the one who was getting all the money? Oh, and by the way, the terms and conditions of the will were that Roy would get half and the daughter would get the other half, right? So when that happened, the other family members, of course, filed a lawsuit, but they were smarter. They got in touch with people at the New York State Bar and they asked them to amend the charges. And that was the charge that got him disbarred. So that is enough for you all about Emily Simon's very personal view, completely distilled about Roy Cohn without an ounce or a shred of Rahmanis for him, even when he describes the line about some little Jewish troll. Because I truly view him as just portraying the worst side of the things that we care about and the values. So I think it's very important that I lay my cards on the table. And that's how I feel about Roy Cohn. Now, our scene dramatically shifts right now as we sort of go back to the rest of the play. And Andrew, can you add in for us, because we're just about to get to the scene now, in terms of what Tony Kushner says about, at this point, about Lewis and Joe Pitt.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to make a little bridge for us. I mean, first off, Em, thank you so much. That was amazing. I didn't know any of that, and so fascinating. Oh my God, those stories. So, I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was trying to talk a lot about what it means to make a play and the community that comes together and the institutions and all of the things that need to happen for a play to become a play. And I started by talking about the artists, and obviously that's where this piece starts with Kushner. And his first task is trying to figure out how he's gonna shape all of the things he's passionate about here. Mormons and, you know, the AIDS crisis and Roy Cohn. So he knows they're gonna be in the play, but he doesn't know how. And I just found a quote in this book that I wanted to share with y'all where they went to go see the AIDS quilts when it was on display in San Francisco. And there was a square on the quilt that said Roy Cohn, bully, coward, victim, which is one of the pieces of material that M sent us in the email, which is a documentary. Is that right, Emily? So Kushner sees that and then turned to Oscar Eustis and said, if I can write something half as dialectical as that, I'll be able to make a great character. And so I just love thinking about like Tony Kushner working on crafting, in particular, that character. We just learned all about who this person was, but this isn't a piece of documentary theater. Like quoted from the beginning of the play, he's trying to turn this real person story into a character that needs to fit dramaturgically into a play. And I love the idea of Tony Kushner drawing inspiration from the brevity of this, of the patch on the AIDS quilt. And so then a couple of weeks ago, I also talked about the institutions that come together in order to help to shape a play and to get it to the stage. And so that's what was happening after Kushner had drafted Millennium Approaches. And so they were going through all of these workshops on both coasts, in LA and in San Francisco and in New York, as there was a team of artists working with Tony Kushner to try to continue to shape this play. So there's some great quotes in the book that I've been drawing from about, workshops on workshops on workshops. Sometimes they were a week, sometimes they were 2 weeks. And in LA, there was the guy running the theater in LA would just sometimes bring his team together without any audience, just to watch some of the development. And he has a great quote where he would be in the audience and say, I don't know what this is, but this is something. This is our mission. And I love thinking about how nothing like this had really ever been done before. He was working on an epic piece of drama, and it takes faith and support from other people when they don't even know what it's becoming, to be able to bring the play to life. And there were some quotes in here about that process when, in particular relating to the scene that we're about to read. So the actor who played Lewis in a workshop in LA is named John Matthews. And so this scene coming up is like known as the hot dog scene, because we'll see in a minute that hot dogs feature prominently in it. So he said that while they were working on it and developing it, Tony Kushner brought in 7 wholly different versions of the hot dog scene. And this actor kept a file and talked about how thrilling it was to be able to be a part of the process like that. And that totally stood out for me, because we have this set text here that we can come back to anytime. But of course, that was never the case. It was coming not only from Kushner's brain, but from all of the people supporting him throughout these workshops. And I love the idea of him going back 7 times and then finally landing on what eventually became the hot dog scene.
Thank you, Andrew. So speaking of the hot dog scene, we are now up to scene 7. Starts on page 75 of what you were all given. It's that same afternoon on the granite steps outside the Hall of Justice, Brooklyn. It's cold and sunny. A soubrette hot dog wagon is selling hot dogs. Lewis, in a shabby overcoat, is sitting on the steps, contemplatively eating one. Joe enters with 3 hot dogs and a can of Coke.
Can I?
Lewis? Oh, we can't hear you. Nope, still can't hear him.
Martin, I think there's a problem with your sound. You're not muted, but we can't hear you.
No.
You may need to go to your sound settings in Zoom to specify a microphone.
Get ready. While Martin's figuring that out, I'm going to spin my camera a little bit. See if Martin can get it figured out. Steve, anything you can do to help him. And Mary Ann's going to just take over here, coming off the bench to read Lewis.
I'll read Lewis.
Start again.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Can I
Oh, sure, sure. Crazy cold sun.
have to make the best of it? How's your friend?
Oh, he's worse. My friend is worse.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. It's nice. You're nice. I can't believe you voted for Reagan.
I hope it gets better.
Reagan?
Your friend.
He won't. Neither will Reagan.
Let's not talk politics, okay?
You're eating 3 of those?
Well, I'm hungry.
They're really terrible for you. Full of rat poo and beetle legs and wood shavings and shit.
Ha!
And, iridium, I think. Something toxic.
You're eating one.
Yeah, well, the shape. I can't help myself. Plus, I'm trying to commit suicide. What's your excuse?
I don't have an excuse. I just have Pepto-Bismol. Yeah, I know. But then I wash it down with Coke. You always like this.
I've been worrying a lot about his kids.
Who's
Reagan's. Maureen and Mike and little orphan Patty and Miss Ron Reagan Jr. You know, though you should pardon the expression, heterosexual.
Reagan Jr. is not. You shouldn't make those assumptions about people. I mean, how do you know about him, what he is? You don't know.
Well, darling, he never sucked my cock, but
You're going to be vulgar.
no, really. I mean, what's it like to be a child of the zeitgeist? To have the American animus as your dad? It's not really a family, the Reagans. I read people. There aren't any connections there, no love. They don't ever even speak to each other except through their agents. So what's it like to be Reagan's kid? Inquiring minds want to know.
I can't believe everything that you hear.
But I think we all know what that's like nowadays. No connections, no responsibilities, all of us falling through the cracks that separate what we owe to ourselves and what we owe to love.
You just, whatever you feel like saying or doing, you don't care. You just do it.
To what?
Whatever it is you do.
Are you trying to tell me something?
No, I'm just observing that you,
Impulsive?
yes. I mean, it must be scary. You just
Land of the free, home of the brave, call me irresponsible?
kind of terrifying.
Yeah, well, freedom is heartless too.
Oh, you're not heartless.
You don't know. Finish your weenie. Yesterday was Sunday.
No,
Oh, wait,
Joe's
sorry, Joe.
Yesterday was Sunday, but I've been a little unfocused recently and I thought it was Monday, so I came here like I was going to work and the whole place was empty. At first I couldn't figure out why, and I had this moment of incredible fear. And also, the whole hall of justice is empty, it's deserted, it's gone out of business forever. The people that made it run have up and abandoned it.
Creepy.
Yes, but I felt that I was going to scream. Not because it was creepy, but because the emptiness felt so fast and good. Happy scream. I just wondered what a thing it would be if overnight everything you owe anything to justice or love had really gone away. Free. It would be heartless terror. Yes, terrible and very great to shed your skin, every old skin one by one, and then walk away unencumbered into the morning. I can't go in there today.
Then don't.
Go in. I can't be this anymore. I need a change. I should just,
Want some company for whatever? Sometimes, even if it scares you to death, you have to be willing to break the law. Know what I mean?
yes.
I moved out. I haven't been sleeping well.
Me neither.
And acid mustache. Maybe the court won't convene ever again. Maybe we are free to do whatever. Children of the new morning, criminal minds, selfish and greedy and loveless and blind. Reagan's children. You're scared. So am I. Everybody is in the land of the free. God help us all.
And we now continue. Scene 8, late that night, Joe at a payphone, phoning Hannah at home in Salt Lake City.
Mom?
Joe,
Hi.
you're calling from this street. It must be 4 a.m. What's happened?
Nothing.
It's Harper. Is Harper Joe? Joe?
Yeah, hi. No, Harper's fine. Well, no, she's not fine. How are you, Mom?
What's happened?
I just wanted to talk to you. I wanted to try something out on you.
Joe, have you been drinking, Joe?
Yes, ma'am. I'm drunk.
That isn't like you.
I mean, who's to say?
Why are you out on the street at 4 a.m. in that crazy city? It's dangerous.
Actually, Mom, I'm not on the street. I'm near the house in the park,
What park?
Central Park.
Central Park? Oh my Lord, what on earth are you doing in Central Park at this time of night? Are you Joe? I think you ought to go home now. Call me from home. Joe?
I come here to watch, Mom. Sometimes just to watch.
Watch what? What's there to watch at 4 in the...
Did Dad love me?
What?
Did he?
You ought to go home and call from there.
Answer.
Oh, now really, this is maudlin. I don't like this conversation.
Yeah, well, it gets worse from here on.
Joe?
Mom? Mama. I'm a homosexual, Mama. Why did that come out awkward? Hello? Hello? I'm a homosexual. Please, Mama, say something.
You're old enough to understand that your father didn't love you without being ridiculous about it.
What?
You're ridiculous. You're being ridiculous.
What?
You really ought to go home now to your wife. I need to go to bed. This phone call, we will just forget this phone call.
Oh.
No more talk tonight. This drinking is a sin, a sin. I raised you better than that.
The following morning, early, split scene, Harper and Joe at home, Lewis and Pryor in Pryor's hospital room. Joe and Lewis have just entered. Harper.
Oh God, home. The moment of truth has arrived.
Judith?
I said it. Harper.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, I'm going to move out.
The fuck
You're-
you are. Sorry.
Harper, Please, listen, I still love you very much. You're still my best buddy. I'm not going to leave you.
No, I don't like the sound of this. I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. I already have.
Listen, stay. This is really hard. We have to talk.
We are talking, aren't we? Now, please shut up, okay?
It's sneaking off while I'm flat out here. That's low. If I could get up now, I'd beat the holy shit out of you.
Did you take pills? How many?
No pills. Bad for the...
Pregnant. I called your gynecologist.
I'm seeing a new gynecologist.
You have no right to do this.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
No right. It's criminal.
Forget about that. Just listen. You want the truth. This is the truth. I knew this when I married you. I've known this, I guess, for as long as I've known anything, but I don't know. I thought that maybe with enough effort and will, I could change myself, but I can't.
Criminal.
There ought to be a law.
There is a law. You'll see.
Yeah, I'm losing ground here. I go walking. You want to know where I walk? I go to the park or up and down 53rd Street or places where, and I keep swearing I won't go walking again, but I just can't.
I need some privacy.
That's new.
Everything's new, Prior.
I had to tighten my heart into a knot, a snarl. I try to learn to live dead, just numb, but then I see something I want, and it's like a nail, like a hot spike right through my chest, and I know I'm losing.
Apartment too small for 3. Lewis and Pryor comfy, but not Lewis and Pryor's disease.
Something like that. I won't be judged by you. This isn't a crime, just the inevitable consequence of people who run out of, whose limitations.
Bang, bang, bang. The court will come to order.
I mean, let's talk practicalities, schedules. I'll come over if you want, spend nights with you when I can.
Jury reached a verdict?
I'm doing the best I can.
Pathetic. Who cares?
My hope has conspired to this place, and I can't despise my whole life. I think I believed when I met you I could save you. You, at least, if not myself. But I don't have any sexual feelings for you, Harper. And I don't think I ever did.
I think you should go.
Where?
Washington. Doesn't matter.
What are you talking about?
Without me. Without me, Joe. Isn't that what you want to hear?
Yes.
You can love someone and fail them. You can love someone and not be able to.
Theoretically, yes. A person can, maybe an editorial you can love Lewis, but not you. Specifically you, I don't know. I think you are excluded from that general category.
You were going to save me, but the whole time you were spinning a lie. I just didn't understand that.
A person could theoretically love, and maybe many do, but we both know now you can't.
I do.
You can't even say it.
I love you, Prior.
I repeat, who cares?
This is so scary. I want this to stop, to go back.
I've reached a verdict, Your Honor. This man's heart is deficient. He loves, but his love is worth nothing.
Harper.
Mr. Lies, I want to get away from here, far away, right now, before he starts talking again. Please, please.
As long as I've known you, Harper, you've been afraid of men hiding under the bed, men hiding under the sofa, men with knives.
I'm dying, you stupid fuck. Do you know what that is, love? Do you know what love means? We lived together 4.5 years, you animal, you idiot.
I have to find some way to save myself.
Who are these men? I never understood it. Now I know.
What?
Me.
It is?
Get out of my room.
I'm the man with the knife.
You are?
If I could get up now, I'd kill you. I would. Go away, or I'll scream.
Oh, God. It is you.
Please don't scream.
Oh.
I recognize you now.
Please.
Wait. Oh.
He covers his mouth with his hand, gags, and removes his hand red with blood.
Bleeding.
Mr. Lies.
Right here.
I want to go away. I can't see him anymore.
Where?
Anywhere. Far away.
Absolutamente.
Harper and Mr. Lies vanish. Joe looks up, sees that she's gone.
When I open my eyes, you'll be gone.
Lewis leaves.
Harper?
Huh. It worked.
Harper?
I hurt all over. I wish I was dead.
Scene 10, the same day, sunset. Hannah and sister Ella Chapter, a real estate saleswoman and Hannah Pitt's closest friend, in front of Hannah's house in Salt Lake City.
Look at that view, a view of heaven, like living in the city of heaven, isn't it? It just barely glimmers in the sun.
Glimmers.
Even the stone and brick, it just glimmers and glitters like heaven in the sunshine. Such a nice view you get, perched up on a canyon rim, some kind of beautiful place.
It's just Salt Lake, and you're selling the house for me, not to me.
I like to work up enthusiasm for my properties.
Just get me a good price.
Well, the market's up.
At least 50.
40'd be more like it.
50.
Wish you'd wait a bit.
Well, I can't.
Wish you would. You're about the only friend I got.
Oh, well now.
You know why I decided to like you? I decided to like you because you're the only unfriendly Mormon I ever met.
Your wig is crooked.
New York City, all they got there is tiny rooms. I always thought people ought to stay put. That's why I got my license to sell real estate. It's a way of saying, have a house, stay put. It's a way of saying, traveling's no good. Plus, I needed the cash.
She takes a pack of cigarettes out of her purse, lights one, and offers the pack to Hannah.
Not out here. Anyone could come by. There's been days I've stood at this ledge and thought about stepping over. It's a hard place, Salt Lake. Baked dry. Abundant energy, not much intelligence. That's a combination that can wear a body out. No harm looking someplace else. I don't need much room. My sister-in-law, Libby, thinks there's radon gas in the basement.
Is there gas in that?
Of course not. Libby's a fool.
Because I'd have to include it in that description.
There's no gas, Ella. Give a puff. Put it away now.
So I guess it's goodbye.
You'll be all right, Ella. I wasn't ever much of a friend.
I'll say something, but don't laugh, okay? This is the home of saints, the godliest place on earth, they say, and I think they're right. And that mean there's no evil here? No, evil's everywhere, sin's everywhere. But this is a spring of sweet water in the desert flower. Every step a believer takes away from here is a step fraught with peril. I fear for you, Hannah Pitt, because you are my friend. Stay put. This is the right home of saints.
Latter-day Saints.
Only kind left.
But still, late in the day for saints and everyone. That's all. That's all. $50,000 for the house, Sister Ella Chapter. Don't undersell. It's an impressive view.
Act 3. Scene 1. Not yet conscious, forward dawning, January 1986. It is late night, 3 days after the end of Act 2. The stage is completely dark. Pryor is in bed in his apartment, having a nightmare. He wakes up, sits up, and switches on a nightlight. He looks at his clock. Seated by the table near the bed is a man dressed in the clothing of a 13th century British squire. This next scene will be read all by Simons who share DNA.
Who are you?
My name's Pryor Walter.
My name is Pryor Walter.
I know that.
Explain.
You're alive. I'm not. We have the same name. What do you want me to explain?
A ghost?
An ancestor.
Not the Prior Walter. The Bayou Tapestry Prior Walter?
His great-grandson. 5th of the name.
I'm the 34th, I think.
Actually, the 42nd.
Not according to Mother.
She's included 2 bastards then. I say leave them out. I say no room for bastards. The little things you swallow.
Pills.
Pills. For the pestilence. I too.
Pestilence. You too what?
Pestilence of my time was much worse than now. Whole villages of empty houses. You could look outdoors and see Death walking in the morning, dew dampening the ragged hem of his black robe, plain as I see you now.
You died of the plague.
Spotty monster, like you, alone.
I'm not alone.
You have no wife, no children.
I'm gay.
So be gay, dancing you all together for all I care. What's that to do with not having children?
Gay homosexual, not Bonnie Blythe. Never mind.
I had 12 when I died.
The second ghost appears. This one dressed in the clothing of an elegant 17th century Londoner.
And I was 3 years younger than him.
Oh God, another one.
Prior Walter, prior to you by some 17 others.
He's counting the bastards.
Are we having a convention?
We've been sent to declare her fabulous incipience. They love a well-paved entrance with lots of heralds and...
The messenger come, prepare the way, the infinite descent, a breath in air.
They chose us, I suspect, because of the mortal affinities. In a family as long deceased as the Walters, there are bound to be a few carried off by plague.
Spotty monster.
Blackjack, come from a water pump. Half the city of London, can you imagine? His came from fleas. Yours, I understand, is the lamentable consequence of venery.
Fleas on rats, but who knew that?
Am I going to die?
We aren't allowed to discuss.
When you do, you don't get ancestors to help you through it. You may be surrounded by children, but you die alone.
I'm afraid.
You should be. There aren't even torches in the path rocky, dark, and steep.
Don't alarm him. There's good news before there's bad. We too come to strew rose petal and palm leaf before the triumphal procession. Prophet, seer, revelator, it's a great honor for the family.
He hasn't got a family.
I meant for the Walters, for the family in the larger sense.
All I want is a room somewhere far away from the cold night air.
Come, this is no brain fever.
The lights begin to change. Distant, glorious music.
Adonai, Adonai,
From
Olam,
the minor
Yahud,
fall
Zephirot,
heaven
Zazachot,
across the
Ha
cold
Adam,
and lifeless
Ha
infinity
Gadol,
of space,
daughter of
the
light,
messenger
daughter of splendor,
trailing orbs of light,
phosphor,
fabulous,
lumen,
incipient, O prophet,
candle.
to you.
Prepare,
Prepare
the
the
infinite descent. A breath, a feather,
feather,
glory to.
All right, everybody. Terrific reading by everybody, including people who came in off the bench. Martin, I'm sorry about the problems that you had tonight, and I hope that you'll be back next time well connected.
No one is sorrier than I am.
Did anybody and everybody hear what Marianne just said? All right. Okay, everybody give it up for Marianne. Okay, so in terms of having our discussion tonight, one of the last questions that I actually posed had to do with the Judaism issues that are raised in this particular section. as well as in the past. And here we see Kushner bringing together Lewis's intellectualism of his Judaism, the Hebrew words that are heard by Pryor, and Roy Cohn's internalized anti-Semitism. So before we get to the issues that are around the actual Hebrew words heard by Pryor, I was wondering what people thought about what Kushner is perhaps trying to say or trying to do in terms of being Jewish, what that means, and in particular, what that means at this point in the play. Anybody have any thoughts on that or want to take that, or does it not seem important to you? Judith.
I'm just interested in why the Judaism is often pointed at people who are not Jewish, and what the audience is. And I also bring back the question, can we really talk about Judaism and its symbols since they are so intermeshed with Mormonism in the play? How do we take Judaism? Doesn't Judaism have to be taken as a kind of conversation?
I'm sorry, Judith, we lost you a little bit during that comment because you were having just a little bit of audio problems. So I didn't really get to hear it all. So can you try and say that again?
Two things. I was interested in the fact that Jewish, the Hebrew is often pointed at people who are not, directed at people who are not themselves Jewish, and how do we take that? And two, can we talk about Judaism as somehow separate from the Mormonism that is intertwined with it in the play? So I'm afraid I'm not offering answers, just questions.
Okay, well, I think we're going to, in just a few moments, between Rabbi Benioff and myself, address a little bit about the issue of why it is that in terms of its Pryor who hears people speaking in Hebrew, okay? And we're going to see this also next time, all right? And it's non-Jews who speak in Hebrew that only Pryor, through the lens of Tony Kushner, is actually hearing. And if you're asking me personally, if I think that the Jewishness of the play is different from the Mormonism, I do. Anybody want to respond to that or have a thought about that? Dana. Dana. Unmute,
Okay.
Dana, it's you.
Yes, I hear you. Do you hear me?
I do now.
Okay. So, wow. These are big questions. First of all, as a Jew who lived in Utah for a good number of years, I feel like I can speak to the relationship between Jews and Mormons. But that's not what I wanted to talk about right now. Because you're
would you please? I don't care what you wanted to talk about. Would you please tell us about that? I think we would find it very interesting.
Okay, so I lived and worked in Utah for a long time. And when my daughter was born, my husband and I moved to Wyoming, where there are also a lot of Mormons. And my daughter was very best friends with a family that lived across the street, a big Mormon family. And they had 3 girls and more toys than my daughter had ever seen in her short lifetime. And they got along famously. They spent all their time with each other. And I wasn't an out of the closet Jew at the time because there wasn't a lot of Judaism going on in Western Wyoming where I lived. And I got close with this family and they were helping me to raise my daughter. So I felt akin to them. And when they found out that I was Jewish, the relationship came to a complete end, which was very difficult to explain to my daughter, who was 2 or 3 years old, why she could no longer play with these 3 very best friends of hers. And I never understood it, except I knew that Mormons struggled with Judaism in terms of who we are and who we are in their cosmology, their place in the universe, and what their stories are. But it was extremely hurtful and very confusing to try to explain to a little bitty girl. And what I guess the moral of this whole story is that the Mormons that I interacted with for all those years, because this was just one experience, but long before that, I was always had many friends who are Mormons and still do. I don't want to speak for all Mormons, but it seems to me that they really struggled with understanding the other in general, and Jews in particular. And there's something about being Mormon that is very insular. And I think Mormons would agree with me on that. You can't even go to a wedding if you're a non-Mormon. I've been invited to many, many receptions, but could never attend a wedding, which was in the temple, which, unless you know the secret handshake, you can't go to those. So I don't know if this is really answering your question in terms of the play, but I feel like Jews are people with an identity crisis, and Mormons are people with an identity crisis. So here you have these 2 groups who are really struggling to understand who they are in the contemporary world, where we're friends, right? And yeah, I don't have a good answer for you other than it's been a part of my life as an adult for most of my adult life. So there's that, and that's not really what I wanted to answer, but I'll stop now and let somebody else talk.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else want to talk at this moment about this? Okay. Dana, was there something else you wanted to say, though, that you didn't get to answer because I hijacked your comment?
So I honestly can't remember your original question now. But
my question was here in terms of what is Kushner trying to do here with the various sort of strains of being Jewish? Okay. And why are they sort of starting to come together here and now? And how do these different characters sort of bring that to the fore, and why? That's where I was going with that. Anybody want to take a crack at that now that I have rephrased my question, Counselor? Annie.
I kind of feel like it has to do something with the chosen people, that all of the characters find themselves or feel that they are in some way chosen. So if you want to take it from Pryor, that he well, I'll take it back for a second to Roy. Roy feels like he's been chosen in some way to rid the world of whatever unsavory characters, or to make money. He's been chosen in some way. He was the only son, as you put it very well, from a family that wanted to get money. And so in that way, he was chosen for that. He's been groomed for it. And I think that if you go into each one of those characters, the main characters, that they feel like in some way that they have been chosen, or even if they have been chosen, if you want to say about Joe, he's been chosen, but he's not living up to that because he can't, because of his something that's inside of him that is keeping him from doing that. But that he does believe that he was chosen because that's what he was told because of Mormons. That Mormons, in fact, do feel like they were chosen because they are direct descendants from from Mormon, from what's his name? Joseph Smith, right. So that's what I think. I think it has to do with the being the chosen people. And I'll leave it at that.
Good, thank you. Dana.
Oh, I also think it has to do with our relationship with death. in the afterlife. So we see Mormons, and although some Mormons might disagree that it's not a Christian religion, they definitely believe in Jesus, and they believe in an afterlife. And Jews, in my limited understanding, having only been one for 6 decades now, is it's not so much what happens in our afterlife, it's what we do in the real world. Like, we don't even like, there's some flavors of Judaism that just don't even talk about heaven or, angels or any of that sort of thing. And so I really see, if a major theme is death and how we deal with death, like that's what Pryor's going through, and that's what Lewis is going through, and in an existential way, that's what Harper is going through, and that's what Joe is going through, and that's what Roy is going through. Like, we're all looking at who are we in this world and what happens as a result of our actions when we die. And it's a very, very different worldview according to Judaism versus Christian sects, Christian beliefs. And so that's kind of how I'm seeing the different ideas of Judaism in relation to what happens at the end of our lives. Where do we go? What is it all about?
That is an excellent bridge into what Julie and I are going to talk about. And I can already see Rabbi Julie sticking up her hand and wanting to say something. So before we get to that, okay, I just wanted to point out that Leland and Annie absolutely wonderfully read together what would be on page 94 and 95, and right at the end of the scene of the section that we did today, that Leland read Adonai Adonai Olam HaYichud Zephirot Zazachot HaAdam HaGadol. Okay. And then Leland started reading the English translation of that. Now, in the Jewish dramaturgy notes that I looked at, this is when I called Rabbi Benioff because I just want to give people enough of the background. The Jewish notes that I looked at said this was something from the Kabbalah, because I have to tell you that when I was reading this, my translation of daughter of light, daughter of splendor, this all had to do with light, but it wasn't consistent with Adonai Adonai Olam HaYichud. It wasn't an actual sort of literal translation. And I can see Rabbi Benioff shaking her head. So I called her because I thought, I need help. I don't know the Kabbalah at all, not a little bit of it, but I do have a theory before I turn this over to Rabbi Benioff in just a moment for why the characters who are speaking in Hebrew to us are not Jewish. And this is something that Rabbi Benioff doesn't know I was thinking, because I wanted to surprise her. So I think it's a lot like Balak and Balaam, where a non-Jewish person. So everybody knows the story of Balak and Balaam, right? If you don't, I'm going to do it in 2 sentences. Okay. The priest, who is not Jewish, is told to curse the Jewish people. He's sort of like a hired missionary type of guy. He's a seer, okay? And he can't do it. So what comes out of his mouth is Ma Tovu, right? It's the greatest prayer that we use to welcome everybody in, and we sing it at every single service. Ma Tovu. Okay, that's all I'll do, all right? And to me, this essential sort of welcoming in thing is said by a non-Jew, and I think that the significance of that, particularly here at this pages 94 and 95, is because for every other time that we had ended, both these last 2 times, and you will also see in the next one, is I always ended it previously with the voice, with the messenger coming. And as Leland had said last time, it was always an audio daily double. It was always sort of like the audio clue that the messenger was coming, that the angel was coming, but that there was no visual. And here what we're getting is, we're getting two characters now, okay, who somebody looking at the outside of this could say, oh my, we're getting a visual, and it's a pretty disturbing visual, right? But what they're really saying through the use of the Hebrew here is to welcome in everybody to be prepared for the angel and to be prepared for the messenger, which is what we try to do when we start our religious services. And with that in mind, Rabbi Julie, take it away.
Okay, wow, that was fascinating. Thank you. So I did some research about particularly the Hebrew here on this page, and I don't yet have an answer from some of my Kabbalistic teachers, and I'd love, so maybe next week I'll have that for us. So I can't say for sure the source of this, but what I can say is it's totally Kabbalistic in its content. And so I would say it's a good likelihood that it certainly is from the Kabbalah, and it probably comes from some text. So if I may, I wanted to just talk about the Hebrew. Does that sound good?
Well, unfortunately, you're breaking up. I couldn't hear it.
Oh, too bad. Don't know what to say. Can you hear me now? Okay.
I can better. Can you repeat that?
I don't know where you lost me, but I looked up the Hebrew, and I think it's Kabbalistic. I mean, it's totally Kabbalistic terminology, but I don't know that if it's a direct quote. But these ideas are totally Kabbalistic. And so I'll look into seeing if I can find someone to tell me definitively that or not in the next week. So Adonai is God's name, Yud He Vav He, and the Olam HaYichud is referring to the world of unity. And in Kabbalah, there's this idea that there's these two worlds that exist, the world of separation and the world of unity. And the world of separation is where we live all the time. And the world of unity is sort of this place that we aspire towards, or I would say in this case, is going to be death, that we achieve when we die. We can achieve it if we're very, very spiritual, probably in a meditative trance or something. In Olam HaYichud, this world of unity, encompasses the world of separation. It is everything. It is it is where God is. For the mystics, for the Kabbalists, God was this idea of unification. That's what God was. God connects everything. God is in between of everything. God is inside of everything. And so that's this idea, Olam HaYichud. So it's saying Adonai, Adonai, Olam HaYichud. So it's like, it's channeling in that idea. And then we get into this Zephirot and Zazahot. Zephirot is likely referring to the Sphirot, which are these 10 emanations of God that the Kabbalists talk about as ways in which God presents in the world. And Zazahot, the closest I can find as a partial definition is that the word zehut means identity. And so it's saying there's this idea of the Sphirot. So it's talking about who God is, or this idea of God. So God is oneness, the unification. God is the Sphirot, which is the Kabbalist idea. God is in all of those emanations. And that's the identity. And then it says, Ha'adam Hagadol. So Ha'adam is the man, and Hagadol is the great one. And what I believe this is referring to is Adam Kadmon, which is this Kabbalistic idea of the primordial man. And it's like man was made in God's image, and that first man, but there's this idea that what is God's image? That there was actually a godly man, a spiritual version of which humans were made in the image of. And this this is this idea in the Zohar, this Kabbalistic text, that there's this Adam Elyon, this man on high, this great, great superior being who is all 10 sfirot. That is who this man is the 10 emanations of God that then created humanity. This is kind of weird stuff here. And then according to Isaac Luria, who is one of the Kabbalists, Adam Kadmon, this original human emanation, sphirot being, mirror of the spiritual. It's very confusing what they're actually speaking of, but it is light, that this man actually is light, worlds of light. And light is flowing from his nose and from his mouth and from his ears, and from his eyes. And it is this just beaming huge light. So this statement is I think I am accurate. This is sort of what it's talking about, but it's sort of hard to understand. But I think it's sort of calling forth God, who is this unifying entity, that is these emanations, which are often considered points of light, and that humanity is this image of this divine being that is all of those sparks of light. And then we go into the rest of the text, right? And it's saying, now it says, daughter of light, daughter of splendors, fluor, phosphor, lumen, candle. From even now, from the mirror bright halls of heaven, across the cold and lifeless infinity of space, the messenger comes, trailing orbs of light, fabulous, incipient, O prophet, to you. And so they're calling in this angel, right? And the angel often is a feminine. And so are they calling in? And then the other thing is about angels. So angels in the Zohar, in the Kabbalah, are just like these bundles of godliness, bundles of like energy. And they're said to have been created when God said the words, let there be light, that's the moment angels were created. Anyway, so they're calling forth this energy of unification and of light, of purity, that is the angels, that is God. And then I just want to say this, I realize we're now at 8:30, so there's like a lot here. Is this piece you were saying, Dana, like this having something to do with the relationship with the death and the afterlife. Like I feel like I just want to say, I think yes, from this, and like that what's happening when we die, and everyone's dying and everyone's in relationship with death, as you said. And what happens when we die is we become reabsorbed in the oneness of creation from which we came from, which is light, which made light, which infuses us with light, and what angels are completely made of. And we're all on a journey into that space. Anyway, I think I'll end there.
So was Larry Kushner, did he know all this stuff? Like, was he a Kabbalistic, or, I mean, he wrote this.
I know,
right?
So I was thinking about that, and I became very curious about him, because this is really esoteric stuff. Like, this is something, I mean, I had to do some deep digging, and so I'm very curious, and I don't know if our the wise ones here, the Simons family, it might shed some light on that. Like, how did he even know about this?
Andrew. Andrew, this is a job for you.
I mean, I don't know for sure. I know that he's a really smart guy. You know, a lot of people in this book commented on Kushner's intelligence and sort of like the breadth of his knowledge, you know, and he came from a Jewish family, so he was raised Jewish, but specifically to his like familiarity with like Kabbalistic ideas, I can't really speak to that. I mean, I'm thinking about like the research that he might have done in order to put himself in a position to be able to write this piece, because like I've talked about before, he's working on these specific themes, but I can't speak to exactly like what the connection is or how he came to choose those words that we read at the end of the session.
I have just one little tiny answer to that. And this really does have to do a lot with what we're going to hear next time. So next time, what we're going to hear is Hebrew that is absolutely recognizable to almost all of us in the room. And if it's not going to be recognizable to you, believe me, we're going to make it recognizable. And in the Jewish dramaturgy notes that I've been reading, it says that Tony Kushner intended very clearly for us to understand, those are people who are Jewish in the room, to understand what the Hebrew is that we get in the last section of the play. That he clearly intended that we knew it and that we had a reaction that would be potentially different from other people in the theater, in the audience, okay? But that for this, when I looked it up, it was relatively silent as to what he was intending to do. So I don't have a good answer. Dana, that's a long way of saying I don't have an answer.
I'm curious, so this would take a little bit of research, but this, the play, was it 68? No, it was later than that, early 70s.
Oh, it's 86.
Oh, it's 86. But wasn't it, Andrew, what did you say about like when it was very first written? I can't remember.
It was researched in the, like I would say 89 and then workshopped in 1990, 91, and then premiered in 91.
It would be interesting to look at the history of interest in the Kabbalah, in Kabbalistic Judaism, because I mean, I've heard about it for probably 20 or 25 years now, and it's been in existence, right, for centuries, right? Thousands of years, essentially. Or, well, I don't know. Julie could probably answer that. But I'm just wondering if there was like a renewal of the ideas that Larry Kushner might have.
Tony Kushner
might have heard about.
Pretty famous rabbi.
They're a very different person, right? So anyway, just a thought.
There does exist a book called Kushner and the Kabbalah, a Dybbuk, because he wrote a play called The Dybbuk, which evidently also involves his digging into some of this stuff. So for people who want to go digging, there seems to be some analysis of his use of it in other works.
Thank you.
And a Dybbuk is a demon.
Thanks.
A Dybbuk is a demon, and
Okay.
so that's the opposite of an angel, which is very interesting.
It's 8:36. Granted, we had technical problems tonight. Martin, I'm terribly sorry about what happened. Hopefully you can take over again your assigned role. And in the meantime, if there's anybody here who hasn't read, there are additional new characters next week. It helps me when people volunteer and say, I want to read. So even if you told me before you didn't want to read, tell me and Kathy Ballot now that you want to read, and we'll give you a part, even if it's just a very few lines. I want to thank all the new readers tonight. I want to thank the old readers tonight. I want to thank everybody who hung in there through technical problems. And what I want to say is, again, like I did in the beginning, hey, this is theater. And you can never tell what's going to happen. So embrace the technology, embrace the uncertainty. Have a great week, and I will see you all next week at our last session. And then you can all think about if you want to do this again for perestroika, which is the next 3 hours after this. So then we'll take it from there and figure it out. So to that, I have to say, the messenger cometh. And right now, his name is Joe Biden. Good night, folks.